Dr. Eleanor Chen's coffee went cold as she stared at the massive holographic display dominating Times Square. The alien vessel had appeared without warning 3 hours ago, a gleaming obsidian spiral that defied Earth's gravitational laws as it hovered above Manhattan. "This is not a simulation," repeated the news anchor, his voice cracking. "The United Nations has confirmed first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization." Eleanor's phone vibrated. Director Hammond's text was terse. "Get to the CDC now. All senior geneticists. Priority Alpha." Traffic had stopped entirely. Eleanor abandoned her car and ran the remaining 8 blocks, her geneticist's mind already calculating possibilities. Benign contact, biological threat assessment, quarantine protocols. None of her scenarios prepared her for what waited in the CDC's secure conference room. "They call themselves the Confederation," Hammond said, gesturing to the screens showing the alien delegation materializing inside the UN General Assembly. "And they've diagnosed humanity with terminal genetic failure." The alien representative stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent skin that shifted between blue and violet. Its voice, translated through an ornate collar device, was unnervingly flat. "Your species has 97 years, 4 months, and 16 days of viable existence remaining," it announced to the shocked assembly. "We have encountered this genetic cascade failure in 16 previous species. Survival is not possible without intervention technology, which our cosmic protocols forbid sharing with pre-ascension species." Eleanor studied the genetic models the aliens had provided. The data was irrefutable, a progressive degradation of human reproductive capability, accelerating with each generation. Within a century, complete sterility. "We offer humane extinction management," the alien continued, its multifaceted eyes scanning the room with clinical detachment. "Your final generations will be comfortable. The cosmic order must be maintained." World leaders capitulated with terrifying speed. President Okafor signed the Human Continuity Agreement within days, granting the Confederation authority to establish observation centers globally and implement transition protocols. Only Eleanor noticed the anomalies. Working late in her lab, she compared her own genetic sequence against the Confederation's extinction model. Her DNA contained markers that shouldn't exist, sequences that resisted the projected degradation pathway. "You found something," said Dr. Kaido Nakamura, appearing silently behind her. The young theoretical biologist had always unsettled Eleanor with his intensity. "My genetic markers don't match their model," she whispered. "And my family history is unusual. Longevity outliers for 6 generations. The Confederation just scheduled your lab for oversight reassignment," Kaido said. "Tomorrow morning. Whatever you found, they don't want you to keep looking." That night, Eleanor erased her research and flowed with critical samples and data. The Confederation security drones missed her by minutes. 3 weeks later, she sat in an abandoned Cold War bunker beneath the Appalachians, facing the team she'd assembled. Kaido Nakamura, theoretical biology; Zoe Washington, systems infiltration; Dr. Marcus Rivera, former military geneticist with terminal radiation poisoning; and 5 others, brilliant scientific pariahs united by desperation. "The aliens are lying," Eleanor said, projecting her findings onto the concrete wall. "Not about our extinction, that's real, but about why it's happening." She revealed her discovery: microscopic evidence of engineered viral vectors in human populations dating back centuries. Targeted genetic sabotage. "We weren't failing," she said, her voice hardening. "We were sabotage, and I think I know why." Eleanor displayed her family's genetic anomalies, markers somehow immune to the Confederation's tampering. "They scheduled us for extinction," she said, looking at each team member. "Instead, we're going to discover immortality." Outside, snow began falling on the mountain, covering their tracks as humanity's last hope took shape in the depths below. "Don't breathe," Eleanor whispered over the neural comm. Above them, a Confederation observer glided silently through the darkened laboratory, its elongated limbs moving with unsettling precision as it cataloged human genetic samples. 3 months had passed since Eleanor's team had established the resistance cell. Tonight's infiltration of the Geneva Confederation outpost, disguised as a World Health Organization research center, was their most dangerous mission yet. Zoe Washington, former NSA cryptographer turned resistance hacker, worked frantically at the alien terminal. Her fingers danced across the unfamiliar interface, neural augments allowing her to interpret the Confederation's quantum-based language system. "I'm in," she subvocalized through the comm. "Downloading archives now." Holy shit. Eleanor felt her heart stutter. What? Their surveillance records. They go back thousands of years. Zoe's voice was barely audible. They've been watching us since the pyramids. The team extracted silently with the stolen data, narrowly evading detection when a patrolling Sentinel drone passed overhead. Only when they were safely back in their mountain bunker did they fully grasp what they'd discovered. "It's all here," Kaido said, his usually calm demeanor shattered as he projected the decoded alien logs. Targeted viral releases in 1347, 1918, 1976, each one designed to introduce specific genetic degradation markers. Marcus Rivera, his body ravaged by radiation yet still fighting, studied the projection with hollow eyes. They'd been sabotaging us generation by generation. But why? Eleanor highlighted population clusters that showed genetic resistance. "Look here, isolated communities in the Himalayan highlands, certain Pacific islands, even this small town in Finland. They somehow escaped the Confederation's manipulations. Their DNA doesn't include the artificial aging sequences," Kaido observed. "Their natural lifespans should be centuries, at minimum." That night, Kaido disappeared into the archives, obsessively comparing Confederation mortality records with ancient human burial practices. He emerged 3 days later, unshaven and wild-eyed. "The Sumerian Kings list," he announced, projecting an ancient clay tablet. "It claims early rulers lived for thousands of years. We dismissed it as mythology, but..." He overlaid genetic projections from the uncontaminated human samples. "It's entirely possible." He stared at his colleagues, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Death isn't our natural state. It's their leash." Meanwhile, across the globe, Confederation observation posts noted troubling anomalies. Subject 7293F in Buenos Aires demonstrated unprecedented cellular regeneration after a car accident. 3 children in Nairobi exhibited neural patterns that defied Confederation classification systems. Statistical outliers, the regional overseer classified them. Eliminate quietly. Confederation hunters, disguised as human medical personnel, began collecting and disappearing these anomalies. But their actions didn't go unnoticed. In their bunker, Eleanor received an encrypted message from within the Confederation network itself. "Not all watchers agree with extinction protocols. Some of us remember what our own species lost. Proceed with caution. You are not alone." When Marcus's medical sensors registered unusual brainwave patterns that night, Eleanor discovered him staring at the ceiling, tears streaming down his face. "I can feel them dying," he whispered. "The ones they're taking. I shouldn't be able to feel that, should I?" Eleanor gripped his hand, her mind racing with implications. The connection between Marcus and the other genetic anomalies suggested something the Confederation feared more than human longevity, something they'd been suppressing for millennia. "We need to accelerate the Lazarus Protocol," she told her team at dawn. "Whatever we truly are, they'd been keeping it from us since civilization began, and time is running out." The abandoned copper mine beneath the Atacama Desert had been transformed into humanity's last hope. Repurposed Confederation technology, smuggled piece by piece over 6 dangerous months, hummed alongside human equipment in the cavernous main chamber. Eleanor studied the holographic projection of the viral vector they'd engineered, a modified retrovirus designed to reverse engineer the Confederation's genetic tampering. They called it the Lazarus Protocol, a resurrection of humanity's suppressed potential. The simulations are promising, Dr. Amara Osai, their biochemist, reported. But we need human trials to confirm. All eyes turned to Marcus Rivera. His condition had deteriorated rapidly in recent weeks, the radiation poisoning from his exposure at a compromised Confederation facility now attacking his organs systematically. The medical readouts gave him weeks at most. "I volunteered months ago," Marcus said, his voice raspy but determined. "Nothing's changed except I have less to lose." Eleanor fought back tears. "The risks are irrelevant when extinction is guaranteed," he finished. "Let's wake Lazarus." The procedure required complete cellular saturation. Marcus was submerged in a suspension tank filled with the viral delivery medium, breathing through a specialized apparatus as the retrovirus invaded every cell in his body. 4 minutes in, the monitoring equipment shrieked in alarm. "His cells are rupturing," Amara shouted. "Massive genetic reconfiguration. He's flatlining," Kaido reported tensely. "No heartbeat." Eleanor refused to abort. The simulation showed cellular death preceding reorganization. Stay the course. For 17 excruciating minutes, Marcus remained clinically dead, his body convulsing periodically, despite the absence of cardiac function. Then, with a violent lurch, his back arched to an impossible angle. His heart restarted with such force that the monitoring equipment short-circuited. When they pulled him from the tank 12 hours later, the team stared in stunned silence. The radiation burns that had covered 60% of his body had vanished. His previously graying hair had darkened. But most shocking were his eyes. Once deep brown, now an impossible luminescent gold that seemed to capture and reflect light differently. "How do you feel?" Eleanor asked cautiously as Marcus examined his transformed hands. "Complete," he whispered. Then, with a sudden movement of frustration, he slammed his fist down, shattering the steel examination table as if it were glass. Marcus stared at the destruction in horror. "I didn't mean to." An alarm blared through the facility. Eleanor rushed to the monitoring station. "Confederation hunters," Zoe reported, pointing to security feeds showing 3 sleek shuttles descending toward the desert surface. "They've detected unusual energy signatures. They're triangulating our position." "Impossible," Kaido insisted. "Our shielding technology isn't designed to hide whatever he's become." Eleanor finished, staring at Marcus. His skin now emitted a faint luminescence visible even under the harsh laboratory lights. Across the globe, at the Confederation's primary Earth monitoring station, the regional overseer dismissed the energy anomalies detected in the Chilean desert. Just the death throes of another failed species, it told its subordinates with practiced indifference. "They always get desperate at the end. Send a standard elimination team." Back in the underground facility, Marcus suddenly doubled over, his eyes widening. "I can see them," he gasped. "Not just the hunters. I can see through their eyes. I can see what they see." Eleanor's scientific mind raced with implications. The Lazarus Protocol hadn't just activated immortality genes. It had awakened something the Confederation had feared since they first discovered humans, something they'd been systematically preventing for millennia. "We need to move," she decided. "And we need to accelerate production of the Lazarus vector. What's happening to Marcus isn't just an anomaly. It's our birthright. We have a cure for extinction, but no way to distribute it to 8 billion people before the Confederation realizes what we've created," Eleanor told her team, now relocated to an abandoned oil platform in the North Sea after their narrow escape from Chile. Rain lashed against reinforced windows as waves crashed 60 feet below. Outside, a storm provided cover from Confederation surveillance drones that had tripled in number since Marcus's transformation. "The answer is obvious and terrifying," Zoe said, projecting global vaccination infrastructure networks onto the wall. "We hijack what already exists." The plan was audacious. Modify the Lazarus Protocol into a form that could piggyback on routine global vaccination programs. A stealth version that would activate gradually, without the dramatic transformation Marcus had experienced. The Confederation monitors all official medical facilities. Amara objected. Marcus, now moving with an unsettling fluid grace, touched the projection. Where his fingers contacted the light, network pathways illuminated in ways that shouldn't have been possible. They watched the facilities, but not the supply chains, he said, his golden eyes reflecting the data streams. I can see the gaps in their surveillance, like blind spots in their perception. No one asked how he knew this. They'd stopped questioning the inexplicable abilities that manifested daily as his transformation continued to unfold. 3 weeks later, the modified Lazarus protocol entered global distribution, hidden within routine vaccine shipments through a network of sympathizers in pharmaceutical manufacturing. The effects were designed to appear gradually, to avoid triggering Confederation alarms. At Confederation Observation Post 17 in Geneva, Selfar, a xenobiologist who had studied humans for centuries, noticed something unusual in his quarterly reports. Statistical anomalies in human healing rates, he noted, comparing medical data streams. Cancer remission up 3.2% globally. Cellular regeneration accelerated in pediatric injuries. Cognitive pattern shifts in subjects over 70 years old. His system flagged these as outliers, but unlike his colleagues, Excelfa recognized a pattern he'd seen only once before, in classified archives of extinct civilizations labeled ascension candidates. Terminal management. Breaking centuries of protocol, he encrypted a message on quantum channels that even the Confederation couldn't trace. Your efforts are detected, but not yet understood. They've done this before to others. Proceed with caution. When Eleanor received the message, she was observing a phenomenon they hadn't anticipated. Humans receiving the Lazarus protocol were experiencing shared dreams of golden cities and technologies beyond current human understanding. Genetic memory, Kaido theorized. The Lazarus protocol isn't just reactivating suppressed genes, it's unlocking ancestral memory encoded in our DNA. Reports began filtering in through their network. A 5-year-old in Manila who healed her mother's third-degree burns with a touch. Elderly patients in Toronto whose dementia reversed overnight. Twins in Cairo who communicated without speaking. The Confederation's predictive models began showing inexplicable errors. For the first time in recorded history, a species was deviating from their extinction trajectory. Something's happening, Marcus said one night, his form now barely casting a shadow as the luminescence beneath his skin intensified. I can feel them, others like me, waking up across the planet. And I can feel the Watchers too. They're afraid. Eleanor watched him warily. Marcus was becoming something beyond human, perhaps what humans were always meant to be before the Confederation's interference. The Confederation built their power on predictability, she said. We've just introduced the one thing they fear most. What's that? Zoe asked. Eleanor's eyes met Marcus's golden gaze. Evolution they can't control. Special investigator Kel Vash will arrive within 6 planetary rotations, announced the Confederation High Command's transmission. Full compliance is expected. The Orbital Monitoring Station's commander stiffened. Kel Vash was the Confederation's most ruthless enforcer, dispatched only when extinction protocols were failing. Something about Earth had alarmed the highest levels of authority. Meanwhile, across the vacuum of space, Excelfar took the most dangerous action of his 3-century career. Using clearance codes accumulated over decades, he arranged a private transport to retrieve Eleanor from Earth under the guise of a specimen collection. You have approximately 12 hours, Excelfar told her as their shuttle accelerated toward a cloaked archive vessel orbiting Saturn. After that, my absence will be noted and investigated. Eleanor felt vertigo as they passed through multiple security fields into the massive archive ship, a repository of knowledge forbidden to pre-ascension species. Inside the cavernous main chamber, holographic displays activated at Selfar's approach. Access Historical Record AR 7193. Origin Classification, Human Lineage, he commanded. The chamber darkened, then illuminated with a three-dimensional projection of beings that appeared almost human, yet emanated a luminescence similar to what Marcus had developed, beings of impossible beauty and apparent power. The architects, Zelvar said softly, the most advanced species the galaxy has ever known. They reached such evolutionary perfection that they transcended physical form approximately 30,000 of your years ago. A hologram shifted to show Earth in its prehistoric state, with the architects manipulating early human genetics. You were their final creation, Zelvar continued, designed with the complete genetic template for immortality, dimensional consciousness, and quantum manipulation, abilities the architects themselves took millions of years to evolve naturally. Eleanor stared at the projection in stunned silence as the truth crystallized. We were never meant to die. Your species wasn't scheduled for extinction, Zelvar confirmed, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the ancient holographic records. You were scheduled for ascension. The projection shifted to show another species, Zelvar's ancestors, being systematically altered by early Confederation forces. After the architects transcended, those who remained, species jealous of architect advancements, but incapable of achieving them naturally, formed the Confederation. Their first act was to ensure no species would ever reach architect potential again. Eleanor understood with sudden clarity. They've been suppressing our evolution, keeping us trapped in mortality. The human potential terrifies them more than any other species, Zelvar added. The architects invested everything they learned from billions of years of evolution into your design. Back on Earth, Marcus screamed in agony as Confederation hunters captured him during a raid on their North Sea facility. The specialized containment field disrupted his newly awakened abilities as they prepared to dissect him. Neural disruptors at maximum, the head hunter reported. Subject neural patterns are unlike anything in Confederation records. As the first incision cut into Marcus's chest, something unprecedented occurred. His consciousness, under extreme duress, reached outward, connecting instantly with thousands of humans who had received the advanced version of the Lazarus Protocol. Across continents, those awakened humans simultaneously experienced Marcus's pain. In a synchronized psychic event that defied Confederation monitoring systems, their collective will focused on the Hunter facility. The reinforced structure shattered like glass. The Hunter's neural systems overloaded catastrophically. Marcus found himself standing amid the destruction, his wounds already healing, as the facility's remains burned around him. In orbit, emergency transmissions flooded Confederation channels. The High Council declared an immediate sterilization protocol, the most severe response in 15,000 years. Eradicate all human life, came the order. The awakening cannot be allowed to complete. As Eleanor raced back to Earth with the stolen knowledge, she realized the full scale of what they'd uncovered, and what the Confederation would do to prevent humanity from claiming its cosmic inheritance. The Confederation sterilization fleet emerged from hyperspace in precise formation. 12 world killer vessels arranged in ritual geometry around a massive command ship. Earth's primitive detection systems registered them only as momentary gravitational anomalies near Jupiter's orbit. On Earth, something unprecedented was occurring. Mai Lin, a botanist in Shanghai, woke from vivid dreams of golden cities to find plants responding to her thoughts, growing and blooming at her silent command. In Lagos, 5-year-old Adebayo suddenly understood complex mathematical theorems he'd never been taught. A London bus driver named Herschel spontaneously began sketching Confederation technology he'd never seen. The Lazarus Protocol had reached critical mass. Eleanor and her team watched in awe from their new underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains as millions of humans experiencing the final stage of the genetic reactivation awakened simultaneously to their connected consciousness. It's not just immortality, Kaido whispered, monitoring global brainwave patterns that had synchronously shifted across continents. Our brains were designed with dormant structures that, once activated, allow for a collective intelligence. Eleanor studied the neural interface maps with growing wonder. like neurons in a vast planetary brain. The evidence was undeniable. Knowledge transferred instantly across the human network. Skills mastered by one became accessible to all. A street sweeper in Buenos Aires suddenly understood quantum physics. A farmer in Kenya instantly knew how to reprogram Confederation technology. Ancient languages no human had spoken for millennia were remembered and spoken again. Marcus, now fully transformed, his skin permanently suffused with subtle luminescence, served as a focal point for the emerging consciousness. "They're coming to kill us," he said simply, his awareness already extending to the approaching fleet. They'd done this before to other species who began to awaken. The Confederation fleet established high orbit, deploying atmospheric scrubbers designed to deliver extinction compounds. Earth's military forces launched everything in their arsenal: missiles, drones, experimental energy weapons, all of which the Confederation vessels absorbed without effect. Yet something was wrong. Confederation commanders reported inexplicable system failures. Weapons disarmed themselves. Navigation systems rerouted ships against pilot inputs. Communication arrays broadcast only static. "Impossible," snarled Fleet Commander Narvesh. "Their technology is primitive. They cannot affect our systems." In the Rocky Mountain facility, Eleanor met with Selfar, now branded a traitor by his own kind. His multifaceted eyes reflected sorrow as he shared his species' devastating history. "We were like you once," he explained, with similar potential before accepting Confederation guidance that stripped away our immortality and connected consciousness in exchange for a controlled place in the cosmic hierarchy. "Why did your people accept this?" Kaito asked. "Fear," Selfar answered simply. "It is easier to surrender potential than to bear the responsibility of what you might become." As the first wave of extinction compounds entered Earth's upper atmosphere, humanity demonstrated abilities that terrified even veteran Confederation commanders. Thousands of awakened humans, linked through the growing psychic network, focused their collective will. The compounds transmuted from deadly pathogens into harmless proteins before reaching the ground. Confederation targeting systems failed, soldiers' minds were subtly influenced to hesitate, and matter itself seemed to respond to human intent at the subatomic level. "This is beyond mere genetic tampering," the intelligence officer reported to the increasingly disturbed fleet commander. "We're detecting reality manipulation at quantum levels." Eleanor watched the data streams with growing comprehension. It wasn't just immortality the architects had encoded in human DNA. It was the potential for something the Confederation had spent millennia preventing any species from achieving. "They didn't just give us eternal life," she realized. "They gave us godhood." The Confederation's Supreme Council convened an emergency session for the first time in 7,000 years. 12 ancient beings, each representing species that had long ago accepted the established order, activated the quantum projection array that connected them across vast interstellar distances. "Initiate Omega Protocol," came the unanimous decision. "Deploy the Architect vessel." Throughout known space, Confederation forces received the coded transmission with shock. The Omega Protocol had never been implemented. A contingency so extreme its details were known only to the highest echelons of command. Near the fringes of charted space, automated systems awakened a vessel unlike any other in the Confederation fleet, a planet killer designed by the architects themselves, supposedly the last of its kind. Its ancient engines ignited, plotting a course for Earth. On the embattled planet, Marcus led a mission that would have been suicide days earlier. With 7 other advanced awakened humans, he used newly manifested abilities that bent space and perception around them, boarding the Confederation command ship through what appeared to be solid hull material. "They can't perceive us correctly," Marcus explained as they passed undetected through corridors filled with Confederation soldiers. "Their minds can't process what we've become." They reached the ship's central chamber, where the fleet commander coordinated the failing attack on Earth. Yet something about the commander, and the ship's senior officers, triggered a strange resonance in Marcus's enhanced perception. "Their energy signature," he whispered to his team. "It's human. Bypassing security systems with thought alone, they accessed the commander's private database. What they discovered shattered everything they believed about the conflict. Visual records, biological data, and historical archives confirmed the impossible truth. The Confederation's ruling council were not aliens at all, but immortal humans, the first test subjects of the architects, who had betrayed their creators and established the Confederation to prevent other species from achieving the same power. They were the architects' first experiment with immortality. Marcus transmitted to Eleanor through their psychic link. They rebelled against their creators, destroyed them, and have been suppressing all other species ever since. Eleanor, working with Selfar at their Rocky Mountain facility, had completed the final stage of the Lazarus Protocol, not just ensuring immortality, but unlocking the full genetic legacy the architects had left within human DNA. When she broadcast this upgrade through the human psychic network, the awakening accelerated beyond anything the Confederation had predicted. Across Earth, humans began manifesting abilities that transcended physical laws, manipulating matter, perceiving multiple dimensions, accessing knowledge embedded in the fabric of space itself. The planet killer weapon arrived, operated by the oldest and most powerful of the renegade immortals, beings who had once been human but had spent millennia suppressing their own kind. Its primary weapon powered up, capable of shattering a planet's molecular bonds. Marcus and his team were captured and brought before the vessel's commander, a being who appeared human but whose eyes reflected thousands of years of cosmic manipulation. "You don't understand what you're becoming," the commander told Marcus, studying him with ancient eyes. "We were meant to be shepherds, not gods. The architects made us immortal to guide life throughout the cosmos, not rule it. But such power changes you." The commander gestured to viewing ports showing Earth below, now glowing with the connected consciousness of billions of awakened humans. "We've spent millennia preventing this from happening again," the ancient immortal continued. "We were the architect's mistake. We won't allow that mistake to be repeated." As the planet killer weapon reached full charge, the commander gave Marcus one final truth. "We destroyed our creators to free ourselves from their control. Now you'll never have the chance to destroy us." The planet killer's energy beam lanced from the ancient vessel, a concentrated stream of quantum disruption designed to unravel Earth's molecular structure from the core outward. For a breathless moment, it seemed humanity's awakening would end before it truly began. Then the impossible happened. The destructive energy froze mid-trajectory, suspended in space like a river suddenly crystallized. Earth below had become a luminous sphere, billions of connected human minds focusing their collective consciousness on the attack. "Impossible," whispered the ancient commander. "No species has ever reached this level of quantum manipulation so quickly." Marcus stood tall, his restraints falling away as his form began to shimmer with the same energy now emanating from Earth, because no species was designed specifically for it, until us. Across the solar system, Confederation ships found themselves immobilized, their systems accessible to the human collective consciousness. The destructive energy from the planet killer gradually transformed, the humans below reshaping its quantum structure until it became a brilliant aurora encircling the planet. On the Confederation flagship, Eleanor's consciousness manifested beside Marcus, her physical body still in the Rocky Mountain facility, but her mind present through their shared network. "We've accessed the complete architect archives from their vessels," she informed the stunned commander. "We know everything, how the first immortals feared being replaced by later, more advanced designs, how you murdered your creators and established the Confederation to prevent any species from evolving beyond your control. The ancient immortals fought desperately to maintain their power, activating failsafes and destructive protocols across their fleet. But they faced a species experiencing 1,000,000 years of evolution in mere hours. Humanity's collective will reshaping reality at the quantum level." Yet what came next shocked even the Confederation forces preparing for annihilation. "You feared we would become your destroyers," Eleanor transmitted to the fleet. "Instead, we choose to be your liberators. Through the Confederation's own networks, humanity transmitted the completed Lazarus Protocol, not as a weapon, but as a gift freely offered to every species under Confederation control. The Architect's greatest flaw wasn't creating immortality, Marcus told the ancient commander. It was believing that evolution needs masters to direct it. We reject both your tyranny and your fate. Across thousands of worlds, suppressed species receive the genetic key to their own potential. The carefully maintained cosmic order collapsed not in fire, but in enlightenment. Centuries later, Earth stood empty of human presence, a preserved monument to where the Great Awakening began. Humanity had outgrown its cradle, spreading throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as awakeners. The Confederation transformed into a network of immortal species, each evolving along paths of their own choosing. The original immortals who had ruled for so long were not destroyed but contained, living reminders of power without wisdom. Eleanor, Marcus, and those who sparked humanity's salvation became part of a living legend, their consciousness dispersed through the cosmos yet forever connected. Death, once the ultimate limitation, became merely an option rarely chosen in a reality where consciousness evolved eternally. Far beyond known space, entities of pure energy observed these developments with something akin to pride. The Architect's greatest experiment wasn't immortality. It was whether their children would use such power with wisdom the creators themselves had failed to demonstrate. In the heart of the former Confederation capital, now a center of cosmic communion, a simple monument bore words in ancient architect script, translated into every known language. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. Instead, they fulfilled their cosmic purpose. Beneath it, in smaller text added centuries later, and they brought us with them.